Welcome to CQRS Administration. Previous modules have covered how different organizations and the roles within those organizations use CQRS. Now, we're going to take a brief look at the responsibilities of each role in CQRS. Activities and tasks that can be completed in CQRS are dependent on the user's assigned role or roles. This lesson will provide you with an overview of what these roles can do in CQRS. This slide shows the organizations that are set up on the system that can commission and provide the quality services supported by CQRS. Organizations are arranged in a hierarchy that reflects the current NHS primary care organizational structure. CQRS supports any generic hierarchical structure. For example, should the organizational structure change in the NHS, then CQRS can accommodate this. In this flow diagram, NHS England sits at the top of the hierarchical structure. All organizations on CQRS are seen as descendants of NHS England. Regional local offices, or RLOs, are the immediate descendants of NHS England. And the clinical commissioning groups, or the CCGs, are organizations that are the immediate descendants of the RLOs. General practices, or GPs, are descendants of both the CCGs and RLOs. Understanding this hierarchy will be important if you need to complete a function in CQRS that requires the identification of the organization's parent. Users are set up in CQRS by the user administrator or advanced user administrator. Let's start by looking at what these two roles can do in CQRS, and then look at the other types of administrator roles. We'll continue with a look at the view roles, management roles, and some additional CQRS roles. There are two levels of administrators who set up and assign roles to other CQRS users, the user administrator and the advanced user administrator. A user administrator can create new users and assign or cancel all user roles within their own organization. An advanced user administrator can create new users, assign and cancel user roles within their own organization, as well as for any descendant organizations of their own organization. Both roles can modify existing user accounts, retire users, and lock and unlock user accounts. User and advanced user administrators can exist in all organizations. An organization administrator is limited to only updating details for organizations that are their descendant organizations. For example, an NHS England organization administrator could update RLO organization details. However, most organizations' details will be supplied by an automated feed, including their code, name, and other contract details. In most cases, users will not be able to modify these, and if updates are necessary, they will need to raise a service call. We've briefly covered the administrator roles. Now let's move on to the view roles in CQRS. Users in all organizations have the ability to be assigned the view and finance view roles. In general, the finance view role can run predefined achievement reports, with the ability to see point values and achieved pounds, view national averages and summaries of achievement data, and view commissioning organization averages and summaries of achievement data. The view role can do everything the finance view role can, except that running predefined achievement reports is limited to only showing point values, not pounds. Service providers can only view their own data. Commissioning organizations can only view their descendant organizations that they have commissioned a quality service from. So an RLO could only view QOF data for its descendant GP practices. The commissioning organization has three management roles: commissioning, approval, and finance. The commissioning organization can view, create, and update quality services within the participation management function. Parent organizations with descendant data permissions may view report details on the quality services commissioned by their descendant organizations. As well, using allocated report permissions, parent organizations may authorize descendant organizations viewing rights to specific services the parent organization has commissioned. A user may be further restricted to accessing specific organizations under a parent organization through service provider clusters. When a user is assigned to cluster, they may only access organizations listed in the cluster along with the organization's descendants, if applicable. Service provider cluster restrictions pertain to the entire CQRS system, including offering a commissioning agreement, viewing and managing offers, data submission management, achievement and declaration management, and reports access. The approval management role allows the user to approve a payment declaration for a quality service. The finance management role allows the user to financially approve payment declarations for quality services. The service provider has two management roles. In the service management role, service providers can accept or reject any quality services offered to them by a commissioning organization. The declaration management role allows the service provider to declare any payment declarations for the quality services they are participating in. There are three more roles you need to know about. Supervisor and report writing roles are the same for all organizations. The supervisor role can see all tasks assigned to all users in their organization. The report writing role can create bespoke reports using the reporting tool. The achievement entry role differs in that it is based on the organization. Commissioning organizations can enter achievement data for quality services they have commissioned, while service providers can enter achievement data where there is no automated data feed for the quality services they participate in. Now that you have an idea of what types of activities are based on roles, let's look at how multiple roles can be assigned to the same user in CQRS. For example, Thomas works at both GP Practice A and GP Practice B. At GP Practice A, Thomas has the finance view, service management, and declaration management roles. So at this GP practice, he can view reports, accept quality service offers, and declare achievement for approval. At GP Practice B, Thomas has only the finance view role, meaning he is limited to only viewing reports. When he is in CQRS, Thomas must use the drop-down at the top of the CQRS screen to access the appropriate organization. This will update his access and only allow him the roles he has been assigned for that organization. Roles are also restricted by the quality services you have been assigned. For example, Thomas could be set up to view the QOF, DES, and LES, but only have declaration management for the DES. Next, we'll look at how a user may be further restricted to specific organizations under a parent organization through service provider clusters. When a user is assigned to a cluster, they may only access organizations listed in the cluster, along with the organization's descendants, if applicable. Once a user is restricted to a service provider cluster, they will only be able to offer and support service participation agreements for the organizations within the cluster and their descendants. The Administration tab allows users to administer elements of CQRS, such as users, organizations, messages, tasks, and the quality service definitions. Let's take a look at the Administrative Tasks tab. There are three sub-tabs available under this tab: Manage Organizations and Users, View Tasks, and System Messaging. Specific sub-tabs will display depending on your organization and assigned roles. The Manage Organizations and Users sub-tab allows you to manage organizations by adding or updating an organization. This is only accessible to those with a user administrator or an advanced user administrator role on CQRS. The View Tasks sub-tab allows you to view the tasks of users in an organization. This function is only visible for those users with the supervisor role. Tasks that are assigned to you display on this page. The System Messaging tab is used to create and distribute system messages within CQRS. This tab is restricted to only those users with the System Administrator role. For more detailed information on the View Tasks and System Messaging tab, reference the CQRS User Guide. The sub-tab that we will look at more closely is the Manage Organizations and Users sub-tab. Under the Users sub-tab, you can view an organization's users and update their details. A list of current users populates this screen and includes their name, organization, and the date they were added. Notice that you can view 10, 25, or 50 names at a time by selecting your preference from the View drop-down. You can search for a user's account by name, organization, or date added. You can also use the numbered navigation tabs at the bottom of the screen to quickly scroll through the screens. By clicking on a name in this list, you can access the user's details. Note that this screen is where you can enable or disable a user's access to CQRS. From this screen, you can scroll down to see all the possible roles that could be assigned to this user. To assign a role, select the appropriate checkboxes. You can select and deselect roles as necessary. If you do not select any quality services, the role will default to all the quality services. Below the roles is a service provider cluster section. If clusters have been created for that organization, they will be listed here. To assign a user to a cluster, select the checkbox. When you have finished choosing roles, select the Submit button. To add a new user, select the Add New User button and add the required information on each screen. You will practice doing this in a minute. You will now complete several screens to add a new user. An orange asterisk after the field names tells you which information is required. After you've added the user, you will select the Add Organization button to complete the process. On the Add Organization screen, you can search for the organization by name, organization type, parent organization, start date, or end date. The organization that you selected appears on the following screen. You can see the parent organization, organization type, and access requested listed here. At this point, you will see a list of roles that are available to choose from. Select the role that has been approved for this user, and then select the payment type for each role. Remember, when no payment type is selected, all payment types are included. If you wish to restrict the user's access, select one or more service provider clusters, if available for this organization. When you have finished adding organizations and roles for this new user, scroll down to the bottom of the page and select the Submit button. Ordinarily, descendant organizations are not allowed to run reports for services commissioned by their parent organizations. However, using the Allocated Reports functionality, parent organizations may give permission to selected descendant organizations to view specific report information. For more information on allocated reports, consult the CQRS user guide. When a GP practice closes, a final payment is calculated, and the GP practice is closed on CQRS. The data for the GP practice remains available to view, but not to update. Let's take a closer look at what happens when a practice closes. When a GP practice informs their area team of their closing, the area team notifies the payment system or the NHAIS, also known as the Exeter system. Exeter closes the GP practice on their system and sends the detail of the GP practice closure to CQRS. Upon receipt of this message, CQRS sends a request to GPES to extract achievement data for all the quality services the closing GP practice was participating in. This ensures the latest data is available to CQRS. The updated data from GPES is then used to calculate each quality service's final achievement. For the majority of quality services, once the final achievement has been calculated, the system enters the approval and payment process. This is the normal payment declaration approval process. When each quality service enters the payment declaration approval process, it proceeds just as any other payment declaration would. For example, the service provider declares the achievement and the commissioning organization approves it, as detailed in Modules 7 and 8. Typically, the GP practice is paid a prorated amount based on their participation in the quality service up to the point of closure. There may be some quality service that, due to the complexity of the rules, CQRS cannot make a payment. In these circumstances, it will produce a final achievement report based on the latest data sent from GPES. The commissioning organization will then need to manually calculate any payment due and make the payment through the local payment system. Let's take a few minutes to summarize what we covered in this module. You'll be able to access a central UK-based help desk staffed by knowledgeable people who can swiftly resolve issues and provide informed help and guidance with queries on the system. Help desk support hours will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Note that some links for additional information are displayed. You can also find additional training resources in the CQRS Learning Center. The Online Courses tab contains more in-depth training modules for both commissioning organizations and service providers. The Job Aids and Tutorials tab contains simulation tutorials that demonstrate the specific steps required to complete common and/or critical CQRS tasks and job aids, providing key learning points and steps for common and/or critical CQRS tasks. And finally, you can view, print, or download the CQRS User Guide directly from the CQRS system itself.